guys in the dark.
I've had many encounters with creepy men, and this happened when I was 15 years old. I was depressed as a teen and went off after school. At first, I was just in my neighborhood, and then I went about an hour out of my neighborhood. I always make my way home before dark and had my flip phone if I needed to call my parents. I always felt safe in the busy area. It always had tons of people on the road. One evening, I was on my way home, taking a 40-minute walk before I got there. A car pulled up in front of me at a parking lot, making me stop to let them make a turn onto the road, but the driver just rolled down his window. A 40-year-old man was in the driver's seat, asked me how I'm doing. I didn't know what to say to him. I had hoped that he would just want directions. "I'm okay. How are you?" before I could say anything else. He said that I love your style. Goth girls are my fetish. This man was pretty bold, and I wasn't sure how to react to it. Before I could say anything, a car pulled up behind him, meaning he now was blocking a car. "You got a car behind you," I told him. He replied with, "Meet me in the next parking lot." Before I could tell him no, that I needed to go home, he just drives away. I hoped that he was not serious, so I kept on walking, and there he was waiting. He was standing next to his car, waving at me, trying to flag me down. He was now following me, and I was scared to make him angry. I did not want him to follow me home. I looked around, and noticed some men sitting on a patio nearby, and knew that they could hear me if I screamed. I thought about my choices of going to see him or walking down a hill. I should have just pretended that I was on the phone with my mom or my dad. I don't remember anything about the conversation with him. I just kept my distance, so I didn't get kidnapped. This man walks to the back of his trunk. I started to tense up as he pulls out some black woman's boots that were laced up, maybe about size 9. "Aren't they nice?" he asked me. "Yeah, I guess," I replied to him. I am stunned when he asked me to try them on for him. I definitely can't believe that this is happening. "I'm a little young for you," I tell him. "No, you're not. You're like 20, right?" "No," I tell him. "I'm 15 years old." He suddenly goes white and says, "Oh, I made a mistake." He closes the trunk and says, "You're so hot," and I know I shouldn't say this to a 15-year-old. He drives off at a crazy speed as I walk away gracefully. Why was he carrying around those with him? How many women did he stop? What the fuck just happened? I wonder what would have happened if I was 18 and what his reasoning was for everything. I believe me being older now, he would have been more insistent with me, and I hope that I never meet that man again. I currently work at an arts theater. It is city-owned. The city hired contractors for everything, and we hired volunteers for the concessions and to hand people the programs during the show. It's a 500-seat theater with a library on the other side. About 80% of our clients come back to put their shows on. We usually have many kids' shows from schools, and other centers come in to do their shows. Here is some information about me. I grew up here. My mother was the manager for a long time. While my mom finished work, me and my twin sister would sit and do homework. Before she left, she trained a new lady, Darlene, who became friends with her. Years later, I started volunteering with a local youth group who performed here. I was the one who would run during blackouts so that the set would be changed during a scene. Eventually, I became their manager, with a paid position. I ended up leaving after they didn't pay me. After that, I went through a couple of jobs. By now, I was 16 years old. For those years, I helped with drama. As I was preparing for college, I was starting to think about what I wanted to do in college. At the time, I was interested in the backstage of movies. After I quit my job, my father hounded me to find a job, so I headed to the theater and asked to see the technical director. The director, John, was in charge of everything tech-related. There were only 3 technicians, the sound guy, Matt, the lighting woman, Jen, and John. I talked to John about a job. These guys knew me from when I was little, and would also come in for shows for the schools. I asked if they needed any help. He said that he needed more people. He didn't ask me to fill out an application. Probably hired me because of my past. I had met Mark and Sarah on my first day. Jen was nice, about late 20s. Matt in his 20s. He was sort of goth. Him and John, who happened to be tall and skinny, and knew each other for years, and obviously dabbled in goth. I was excited, being an emo goth wannabe. They trained me in theater tech work, basic procedures, and whatnot. Everyone was fun to work with, and the job schedule allowed me to also focus on school. Did a lot of training with John many times. We would talk about all sorts of things before getting any work done. Nothing creepy at all was said from him. I never felt worried being around him or Matt. A year later, we all became like family and care for each other a lot. I felt great being able to work with such great people. John and Matt lived close together and would drive together back and forth. Thursday comes around, and Matt was not around. I asked John what's going on, and he just walks away. We all noticed that he looked worried all day. We all worried about whatever it is that John was not saying. One day I'm at home. I get a phone call from our boss, Shelley. I have known her for years, and she normally does not talk to employees. She said Matt was let go, and John was on leave for a little while. Jen and I will be running things for a little while, she tells me. And she tells me that she can't say anything, and that she's sorry. I called my mom. She wasn't surprised at all about my phone call. I asked if she knew. She said yes, but she cannot say. When I get to work, me and Jen talk about what we think is going on. We can't figure it out. This did make us closer, but sadly we could not contact John or Matt. We thought someone stole from the company and got caught. We did not want to believe it, but that was our only conclusion, and it just made sense. After a few months, Darlene comes up and says that she needs to talk with me and Jen. She sits down and tells us what has happened. The police knew of somebody in town downloading child videos. They figured out what computer it was from. It was Matt's. During the search, they found videos filmed at my job. These were filmed in an alcove that was used for quick changes between scenes. They were all between 10 and 18 years old. Darlene had to watch every video to identify kids and their families. She told us about it and looked like she was going to puke. She then says that she recognized the arm in the video as Matt's. So, Matt got fired for downloading child videos. Videotaping girls undressing isn't quite a felony. They put John on leave for more investigation. He was eventually let go, and videos of Mark and John doing nasty stuff with Matt's girlfriend were found in the building. I was surprised and wonder what the real reason for me being hired was. Everyone says not to worry about it. What could have happened even though they never did anything to me? Was anything thought about? Did they film me and not get caught with the videos? This was their first offense. My job does good background checks. After everything, Sarah and I got promoted to John and Matt's jobs with no training. I had to learn quickly because no one was there to help. Eventually, we hired some sound guys that stayed with us. We told the sound guys about everything, and they gave us respect. Both men got prison and got out 3 years later. Not long ago, Darlene told me that she saw Matt at a truck stop and froze. He no longer drives his original car, so I don't know what to look for now. No one has seen John. I'm scared of seeing him, so I don't go to my favorite shop anymore. I avoid their road because I don't know what to do if I do see them. This all happened when I was 15. I went out after school. I avoided being home. I left home before my mother got home and came back around dark. I had a cell phone, so I was let out of the house. I usually went to the local shop to draw or do some homework. I was there so much that they knew my order and the time to make it. I was the only goth kid, so I guess I was easy to remember. I was sitting by a window one day, and I see a man staring at me in the shop. He came up and asked me for a pencil. I gave him one and continued drawing. He eventually asks me if he can talk with me, and then sits down with me. I'm used to men doing this, and then walking off after I tell them my age. Not wanting to anger him, I agreed. He sat across from me, so I wasn't uncomfortable. He tells me that I am the most beautiful angel that he has ever seen. I laughed it off and wait for a moment so that I can tell him that I am a minor. "What is your name and what do you do?" I asked him. He says that he is 23 and works at a convenience store. Then I tell him that I'm 15 and still in school. He looked surprised. I'm ready to leave because I figured that he would get up. Then he tells me that he remembers every outfit that I've worn since he first saw me 4 months ago. That's a lot of outfits, seeing as how I'm out daily. He tells me his favorite that I have worn. I walk, so I wasn't sure if he was stalking me. I was nervous at this idea and just wanted to leave. He makes small talk and flirts constantly, and then says, "Oh, I forgot that you're 15. You look so much older." I see it is almost dark, and I say that my mother needs me home now. He asks me to go with him and a friend to a park. I tell him that it's on the way home, but I can't go anywhere and must go straight home. One of these friends was in the shop far away, and this guy introduced me to him before I leave. When we get there, he tries to coax me into a dark section in the park. 2 adult men and 1 underage girl. No. I deny him the request and say no, but I believe that we will cross paths again. I'm almost away, and his friend catches up and asks if I want tacos, then shows me coupons for some free tacos. I couldn't believe that he tried to get me to say okay with free tacos. I tell him no, and finally get away. I made it home, changed my routine for a while. I did run into them a couple of times after that. This guy shows up in a van and offers to give me a ride. I was close to home and got away pretty quickly. I saw his friend a year later, and he struck up a random conversation with me. I'm much older now, and I've not seen them since then. I hope that they don't try that with another 15-year-old. That was lame that they tried to impress me with free tacos. This takes place about 8 years ago in a large city. I'm female, and I was in my 20s. On Saturdays, me and my friends would go out to a gay bar. One night, 5 of us went together. When we got there, we would meet up with people that we knew. I left my friends to go get a drink at the bar. It was full of people, so I squeezed in next to a random guy. As I told the bartender my drink, he turns over to say hi. He has an accent, and I decided to ask where he was from. He told me that it was Ethiopia. I told him that one of my old neighbors was from there. After I started to daydream, he snapped me out of it by telling me that he killed people. I laughed, thinking that he was just drunk, and wanted to say something weird to a goth girl. Maybe he was flirting with me. As my drink arrived, and I was waiting for my change, I asked him, "Did you mean that you used to kill people?" He looked at me and said, "No, I do." I told him that I was fat, and I would just sit on him and make it harder to kill me. I didn't know what to say when he suddenly says, "I won't try, I would. If I chose them, I would." When my change finally arrived, I excused myself and went back to my friends. He moved so he could watch me as he sipped his drink. After a while, he finished his drink and left the bar. Hours later, the goth night was ending, so we said our goodbyes and walked out. I saw a friend of mine talking to someone that they knew, when suddenly I was grabbed from behind and taken to a dark corner near an exit. I was shocked, and I couldn't make any sound. He put my arm behind my back, pushed himself up behind me, as if he was hiding me in the shadows. If I could yell, I'm sure no one could hear me because of the music. I managed to push myself up against him to get free. His grip had loosened, and I was able to kick him between the legs. He bent over in pain, and I was free to run. I ran up to my friend, quickly told her what happened, and we headed to the door. Security stopped me and told me that I had to leave at the front of the bar. He would not listen when I told him about what just happened, or thought that I was drunk maybe. My friend and I got the attention of our other friends and left. I did not see the guy in the dark parking lot because I thought he was hiding. We ran to the car and jumped in as fast as we could. Before I was buckled in, we sped off. The next day there was nothing on the news. I was worried there would be another attack, or possibly a murder. I don't remember what he looked like. Only his cold stare is etched into my mind. After that, I never went back to that bar again. This happened when I was 12 or 13, and in school. I was talkative and pretty dumb. We met at a library one day when I was looking for a book. He was probably around 15 or 16 years old. He was a tall guy, seemed very nice. We didn't talk much that day, and it's been so long I don't remember everything. He started showing up around me more at school. It was friendly, and I saw him staring when he thought that I wasn't paying any attention. He would follow me around at school. Our community center was for young kids to go hang out. Every Saturday, my friends and I would go play tennis or go play Pokemon. He shows up one day and just stares at me. He would hide behind stuff and listen to me talk with my friends, staying there and watching until the end. I was scared to go to the bathroom because I wasn't sure if he would grab me, and my friends knew and thought that it was funny. He was asked to leave, but he refused after being caught staring at a preteen girl. He never approached me, so I was wondering what his next move was. My friends dared me to walk up to him with black lipstick and eyeliner. I looked like the Joker. His face was priceless. Him and his friend laughed at me for like 5 minutes. He then said that he didn't like me anymore. That was my first conversation with him in months. He stopped showing up, and I wore black lipstick for years. I may have stopped dressing like an emo goth, but I still hope that I don't see you again. I live in Florida. I was a regular, and I was also a music broadcaster at a goth club in Tampa. The owner was the kind of guy who would love hanging out on the floor with the dancers. He would also dance and talk with all of his employees. One packed night, I was drinking straight from the bottle. My sister came running in from outside of the club. "Call 911," she shouted over whatever music was blaring over the radio that night. My sister, Jamie, happens to be a calm person, opposite to my more angry and direct personality. But she looked frightened and ready to cry her eyes out. "What's going on?" I asked her. "Someone might get shot. They got a gun pulled on them." I started running for the front doors, as I knew quite a few people who would be out there. Jamie held me back and yells, "No!" So I told her that I would just be fine, and I would find some place quiet so that I can call the police department. I decided to run into the back room, sit down in a chair before dialing 911. "Hi, we need a police officer. Someone just pulled a gun on somebody outside of the castle, and we need an officer here now." "Where are you? Are you in a safe location?" she asked me. "Yeah, I'm sitting down inside of the building." While I was on the phone, people rushed in and tried to keep the door closed. We all stayed in the room and tried to be as quiet as humanly possible. Jamie was inside, and she told me she was outside with some friends, smoking, when she saw the gun being pulled. One friend was punched in the back, and then the gun was pulled. Everyone that could ran inside and locked the doors. None of us knew what to do. Someone pulled a gun on a random person outside of the club. What the fuck? It wasn't long before we heard shouting and gunshots. Eventually there was silence, and someone opened up the door. We thought everyone had gotten inside. One of the other employees, Joseph, was laid on the ground with blood pooled around him. The ambulance had arrived, and there were 4 paramedics. One of them had an oxygen tank, and some equipment to stop the bleeding. Many of the events that followed were a blur as we watched Joseph being taken away. From many of the people that I talked to, the guy had said that he was here to kill some freaks. I enjoyed working there until Joseph was shot in the leg by whoever it was. In my regular life, I've always looked average. I'm small, with red hair and blue eyes. I had dyed my hair since I was a teenager. One time I had dyed it bright manic panic blue. But as much as I loved my goth nights, I also had a part-time day job working as a salesperson. On the weekends I wore all black and high spiked boots with a ton of makeup. During the week, I wore blue jeans and a polo shirt with little to no makeup. The club wasn't just for goths. It also hosted other events like fantasy night and role-play nights. Because I loved it so much, I got a job working there some nights. One night, the manager, Donald, summoned me to work a night that I was off to pour some liquor for some of the party-goers. I wore a black dress, some slacks with a bright pink top. My hair was blown out, and makeup was subtle. Jamie wore her normal black trip pants and Marilyn Manson shirt that night. The night closed. We cleaned up, and I went outside with a green mohawked man. We stood and made small talk until a man had approached us. My heart pounded, but I wasn't sure why. He was probably about 5'10", short hair, and wearing a t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. He was holding a bag from a taco restaurant down the road, and I was afraid of him. I wanted to run, but I was sure that would cause some kind of suspicion. "What's going on in there, then?" He pointed at the door. I exchanged glances with Jamie. "Nothing. We're just closing," Jamie had told him. "Oh yeah, it's one of those freak nights again, isn't it?" That's it, I thought to myself. He's the guy. I didn't see who shot my friend, but I knew that it had to be him. A freak night? What makes you call the people that come here freaks? Jamie looked at me and said to just go talk with the boss, hoping this guy would just stay calm and walk away knowing the owner was inside. I nodded, and Jamie stood by the door just in case the guy tried to follow. The man grinned at her. "Hey, did you hear what happened? A bunch of people got fucked with here a while back." She put out her cigarette, said, "Yeah, I heard that it was pretty awful." He smiled even broader, showing gaps in his front teeth. The boss opened up the door and ushered Jamie to get inside. Neither of us took our eyes off this guy until the door was shut. Everything about the situation and the guy seemed dangerous. "Oh, and I was there," he yelled, the last part. His knuckles white on his takeaway bag. His other hand was clenched. Rage filled his eyes, and his body was turning red. In one quick motion, we were both back inside. The doors had closed behind us. The man was pounding on them until he grew tired. Thankfully, he was not interested enough, or he was probably just too hungry to wait for us to go home. I don't know if the police ever investigated what happened, but Joseph never returned after having his gunshot wounds heal. As far as I know, nothing like it ever happened again, and the man didn't return during any of the other nights that I worked. I began attending a goth club, and there are events that happen a couple of times a week. My two best friends are there all the time, so I decided that I would start going out more and make more than my only two friends. So I did. It was all going really well. I had some people come up to me, and I started chatting with them. One night I kept noticing a goth boy in makeup and platform boots. He seemed to always be somewhere nearby me. He approaches me to say hi, and I ask if we know each other. He says, "Yeah, you're Brad's girlfriend, right?" I replied, "Yes. Are you a friend of his?" He laughs and says, "Well, sort of. We have the same ex." I told him that it was nice meeting him and ran off to rejoin my friends. The next week I go, and he's there again. Says hello when he sees me. I didn't get his name last time and figured that I would ask him this time. After we say hi, I ask him for his name. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was drinking last time. I should not have brought up my ex Jessica. But my name is Michael." I tensed hearing her name, and she still openly admits to having feelings from Brad and has tried to make advances from the moment that we started dating. I trust my boyfriend, but I have very strong dislike for Jessica. I said, "Oh, so your mutual ex is horrible?" He nodded. "Yeah, be careful with Jessica. She's a dangerous one." He talked a bit more about her, mostly about how manipulative she was. I wrote him off as being harmless, and we finished our conversation, didn't speak again for the rest of the night. Over the next couple of months, I'm there every week, but out of the blue, so is Michael. He hadn't been someone that was a regular there, but I wasn't really feeling paranoid about it just yet. I thought that he was trying to make some friends here. I told myself that it would be irrational to think that he was there for anything else, so I chose to ignore it. One evening, Jessica calls Brad as he and I were relaxing outside. She wanted to see how he's doing. They were friends long before dating, and I trust Brad, so I won't tell him who he can't talk to. He has a pretty short conversation, then he hangs up the phone. I told him, "Oh, that reminds me, I met one of her exes the other day." He laughs it off and asks me which one. I told him his name was Michael. All the color had drained from his face. "Did you say that you met Michael? What happened?" Feeling panicked by his reaction, I told him that Amy and I were at the club one night, and he asked if I was your girlfriend. My boyfriend freaks out, so he's about to have a panic attack. And I'm trying to calm him down when I finally get him calmed down. He explains that before Jessica dated him, Michael was with her and was abusive towards her. He always waited for her to leave and followed her, recording everything, what she was doing, how it made him feel, filming all the things that she did throughout the day. He also recorded about how he was sorry for cheating on her, telling her about the two girls that he cheated on her with, a 14-year-old girl and a 15-year-old, and he was 32 years old at that time. It was already odd that he was a 32-year-old dating an 18-year-old and cheated with underage girls. When Jessica dated Brad, he started following Brad around. Michael followed them, recording about both of them. Then Michael waited for Jessica and Brad to be at her house. He left this videotape at her doorstep. Brad begged her to go to the police, but she refused. Brad broke off things with her due to it, and a while later we met and ended up dating, but Michael had never stopped stalking Brad. We found out that he had added Amy, mine and Brad's close friends, and on her Facebook there are lots of pictures of us together, which is how I was found. I'm open to social media about where I am, and I'm sure that Michael saw pictures of me at the club, so he must have figured that that would be a great place to find Brad or Jessica. I started looking back through photographs from the events, and I'm finding him in the background of many of the photos. He played the shy, awkward card, and I fell for it. I talked to a few people that I know. They all said that they saw him and thought that he was a mutual friend of mine or something. I somehow was so oblivious. I didn't even realize that he had been stalking me, following me through the club, appearing everywhere that I was. I am also afraid to get back to that club. I'm afraid to leave my house. I wonder if he knows where I live. He must if he is following Brad and Jessica around. I haven't left my boyfriend's house since I found out. I'm afraid to be home alone. I obviously won't be going back to that club for a while.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.